There, folks, good evening. It's the Earthmaster here on this Tuesday night, December 27th, 2022 is the date. It is about 8:46 p.m. here along the west coast in California. And the latest earthquake shows a 3.0 around the, just south of Taiwan, around the Philippines area there on the western side of the Philippine plate. Notice here on the globe we've seen a pretty good cluster of earthquake activity right around the Banda Sea region, Indonesia area. Let's go ahead and check out some activity here. On the latest USGS map here, there's that cluster of earthquakes that are coming in into the Banda Sea, also up here around the Seram Sea. A lot of activity ramping up here, including a 5.0 within the last hour. We've seen some deeper movement quakes as well as some surface quakes. This 5.0 just coming in. A surface quake about 10 kilometers deep, just that's the defaulted level. And I pulled up the historical data just specifically for a section of the Indonesia region that includes the Seram Sea as well, Banda Sea region. And this area can see some rather large earthquakes. Now, as you can see, roughly within the same region here as we're seeing this this cluster of earthquakes. Now the last larger activity earthquake here was a 7.3 around this time last year, but that was further down south. Now back over here around the area where we're seeing, well, it's kind of spread out, but where we're seeing some of the newer activity, we really haven't seen any larger earthquakes over here, although I believe that it's capable. It's kind of in that seismic gap zone. So we'll watch that area for potential movement. Now the largest magnitudes in this area, take a look over here on the left side of the screen. This area can see some mega quakes out here, and this is definitely a great earthquake, 8.5, pretty large magnitude. That was back in 1938. So coming up on, quite a bit of accumulated stress here that's been built up since that last great earthquake in that region. We did also see a 8.2 a little bit further to the northwest of the swarming area that we're seeing. But overall, this whole region can see a whole lot of large activity. So we'll watch it pretty closely. Let me go back here to the other magnitudes. Looks as though, let's see, when was the last 8-pointer out here? Looks like 1965. So we've seen some 7s over the years, but man, missing out on some 8s out here. I'd watch that zone pretty closely. All right, backing out of here. Looks like we're seeing a little bit of westward pressure movement here up around the Myanmar area as well. 4.4 coming in. And also up around Nepal, around the Himalaya Mountains. This area here is obviously a major plate boundary. Also very capable of producing some significant sized earthquakes. Today, a couple of 4s kicking off here around Nepal. There's a section out here that's definitely overdue for a major quake. I covered that in the past couple videos a while back. Also, let's see here. There's some activity way up here off the Greenland area, just off the coast. Now, it's ways away from the plate boundary. We're talking about a few hundred miles from the plate boundary over here. So this is a intraplate earthquake, 4.6, coming in at the defaulted level of 10 kilometers. Now, I pulled up historical data for this area as well, and here we go. See where we're at? Of course, around the plate boundary, there's a lot, so I am not showing that. I just showed pretty much specifically within this zone where we're seeing today's 4.6 over the last 20 years. So literally, this is about, it's got a little companion there, a 4.5 that happened back in 2014 within the same area. But this 4.6 today, that's about it. Little oddball earthquake activity, and I kind of pay attention to these oddballs because it could be pointing to some further interesting activity within that region. Keep an eye on these areas. All right, let's see what else we got. Further west of the Himalayas, way out here around the Cyprus area, we did see a 4.0 coming in just earlier this evening as well. Along the plate boundary, it looks like just off the plate boundary. Further to the west, not a whole lot going on, aside from up north around the Greenland area. In the Atlantic Ocean, a quick glance here at the EMSC model confirms that. Not a whole lot of activity from the South Sandwich Trench north. Things look pretty quiet. General clusters around the Middle America Trench. South America has definitely been showing some uptick today as well. Notice quite a few 2s and 3s in there. And a glance here at the USGS map shows the latest earthquake, a 4.9 up around the Peru area, but also down south we've seen a 5.1. So this whole area showing a pretty good size increase in activity. Listed on the map here, or at least on the globe, we're seeing those 4s and some 3s and 2s across the middle portion of the Middle America Trench, down to, it looks like maybe around the Costa Rica area. But the USGS only reporting one earthquake of 4.5 from earlier, just off the coast of the El Salvador area into the Middle America Trench. All right, Caribbean area, or at least the north of the Caribbean Sea around Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic. A little bit of activity coming in early this morning, just after midnight of 4.3. Most of the activity here today has been confined to the swarming area, and also around the British Virgin Islands, where we're seeing a 3.6 and a 3.4. Over the last week or so, we've noticed definitely an increase in activity here around the Puerto Rico Trench. And I would say, just looking at this map here, it's a little dangerous area in terms of plate dynamics and plate tectonics. Okay, latest earthquake here. Looks like in Oklahoma, a 2.0 coming in just north of Stillwater, outside of the Perry region, South Lone Elm oil fields. 2.0. Let's go ahead and check out the satellite image. Shall we? Let's go over here real quick. Now, sometimes it's hard to see in the topography of the map here what may be out there. Looks like there's a lot of vegetation. So sometimes it's hard to spot the oil pumping operations out here, or wastewater injection disposal wells. And I believe that's one right here. And it's possible there could be some others in the vicinity of today's 2.0 there in Oklahoma. All right, New Madrid zone, 2 earthquakes here from earlier this morning. We haven't seen any further activity, 2.2 and a 2.2. How about that? 2.2 for 2 earthquakes. Eastern portion of the country, pretty quiet. Around the Pacific Northwest, nothing really popping up here. Had some older activity early this morning around the Seattle area. Let's go ahead and check out the tremor map here tonight, the Pacific Northwest monitoring station here, and it looks like 0 epicenters of tremor once again into the Cascadia subduction zone. I'm just going to go back here one day and double check. Yeah, yesterday we had 132 epicenters underneath the Medford area, southern end of the Cascadia subduction zone. All right, Oregon looks clear, nothing going on there across the area. Northern California pretty clear as well. The Petrolia station is currently offline. That's the station I use around Eureka. They're in Northern California to monitor Northern California activity. It's offline. Periodically it does do that. But I do have a backup station, Dinsmore, California, right here. So that is our backup station for Northern California activity. And again, it looks pretty quiet, aside from our typical movement around the Cobb Mountain area with the Calpine hydrothermal operations ongoing there. Long Valley supervolcano, not a whole lot going on, nothing being listed. One earthquake near Templeton, California, 2.0. That is just off of this fault system here, kind of a coastal range fault. Not for sure why that's not showing up here. What's going on? Sometimes when you hover over these fault systems, it will definitely show you the name of the fault, but for some reason it's not working. Okay, but it's well west of the plate boundary. Further down south, little spotty movement. Most of it's off the Elsinore fault zone, which is right here, and a little activity at the Brawley seismic zone down here. Looks like a 2.7 coming in earlier this evening. But overall, earthquake activity along the west coast kind of backing off a little bit over the last 24 hours. A 0.0 earthquake at Yellowstone, okay. Let's go ahead and check out the Yellowstone overview map here of seismograph stations, and not a whole lot going on. Looks like there's some wind event going on up there around Yellowstone. That's going to be these thicker color lines. But there is definitely a little bit of earthquake activity here in the red spikes, indicating that very small microquake activity that's not being reported. Those are not zeros. Those are probably, I don't know, 0.7, maybe a 1-pointer or so. Mostly confined to the Yellowstone northwestern section here around Maple Creek. All right, see what else we have. Alaska, north to Alaska. Looks like a typical day up there. General movement from about the subduction zone interface here up through the Cook Inlet and into portions of, looks like around the Alaska Range. No major activity to report. A look at the 2.5 map and above only shows a handful today in the state of Alaska. The Aleutian Trench and the rest of the Pacific Ring of Fire here around the northwestern section looks pretty calm. We did have a couple 4s early this morning. Nothing since. And again, we did see a 3.0 coming into the Taiwan area, listed up here on the map. Looks like just south there. So we will watch this Philippine plate here. Definitely capable of obviously seeing some earthquake activity, and some large ones at that. It's been relatively quiet, and today is one of those days. But we'll watch this swarming area. Again, a cluster of large, somewhat moderate to large earthquakes down here occurring into the area of the Banda Sea. Could be pointing to something much larger brewing in that area. We'll watch that pretty closely. Now, I know we did see it. I had an alert on my phone with, or not alert, but a notification about an earthquake here in Australia. I'm not seeing it on the USGS map. Let me go to the EMSC model here and see what we have being reported. See if these guys, it doesn't look like they're reporting that, so we'll go to the GeoNet servers here in just a second. Let's see as we zoom in. There we go. Looks like it was a 3.9 that was coming in earlier today, and also a 2.7 there in areas around Australia, up around North Island, New Zealand. Seen a couple 3s in there as well today. Let's go to the GeoNet servers, and we'll glance at what's going on out there around New Zealand. And it looks like the latest one being reported, a 2.8, about 9 hours ago. Now that's a week and above. The all magnitudes includes deleted event, unnoticeable earthquakes, 2.1, 1.7. Couple 3s. There was a 4.1 about 5 hours ago, 3.4. A couple earthquakes throughout the day today. I don't think we had anything major kicking up out here across the New Zealand area. And I'm going to give a quick glance here at the volcanic activity around the region. Volcanic drums shows Taupo supervolcano. Looks pretty quiet there. Wouldn't you say? I would say so. Not really seeing a squeak or a squat or anything out there as far as earthquake activity goes. Some signatures, though, showing up from at least maybe localized earthquake activity within the vicinity. But I'm not really seeing anything major going on. Up here at this is the Kermadec Islands area. Now that is showing some other earthquake activity here. And this is a region that's almost always having activity, but doesn't get reported as far as the smaller ones go. But this area around, what is that, Roe Island? Looks like. Kermadec Island showing some movement way up north. Aside from that, and this is the most recent data, is it not? Yes, it is. All right. Not seeing any major adjustment or movement out there around New Zealand currently. So, a couple areas. What do we got out here? One earthquake here right now. What is that? Zambiza? 4.1 coming in just right now, but this came in, looks like half an hour ago. Just now getting listed up here on the earthquake catalog from the USGS. And that's kind of an odd one as well. Obviously a ways away from the plate boundary. Doesn't mean there's not any fault systems out here. But another oddball earthquake activity here today. Looking at regional information, as far as historical data goes, looks like we've seen some 4s and 5s historically in the area since about 1900 or so. Not seeing anything major as far as large earthquake activity goes, but definitely been some 4s and 5s, it looks like. But not all that common. That's kind of why I call these things oddball earthquakes. Alrighty. Alright, let's see what else we have here. Checked out Yellowstone, checked out the Trimmer, and the Big Island of Hawaii. Not a whole lot of activity going on there. Nothing being reported across the Kilauea volcano. But I do want to jump in and double check the seismographs because they've obviously been showing a little weird activity around the Kilauea volcano recently. So here we go. Let's see what we got. Maybe? Yes, there we go. There we go. All right, a couple local seismograph stations here. The last update, by the way, was put out almost a week ago. Well, wait a minute. Looks like they updated that. Kind of tricked me there because this morning they did not have an update. So let's go ahead and check out the latest update here on Kilauea volcano. Kilauea volcano is not erupting. All recent eruptive activity in the crater has ceased. No other significant changes have been observed at the summit or in either rift zone. Now, this past week, we saw a slight uptick in seismicity at the summit compared to last week, but volcanic tremor remains weak to non-existent. Deflation, inflation events have decreased in both frequency and magnitude over the past week. Let's see. Yeah, I'm not really mentioning those odd readings that I was talking about, so let me check these out here and see what's going on. I'd like to know what's going on here with this activity here around the seismograph stations. This one here looks a little odd. This is not really an appropriate one. It kind of looks like it's out of whack as far as the activity goes. Past 12 hours. Now, this is some of the activity I'm referring to. These little spurts of, to me, it looks like magma movement in a way. It's long duration type of event. It's not earthquake activity, but something still kind of making noise below the ground, I should say, in that matter. And those events do show up on other seismograph stations. It's not wind, it's not earthquakes, but it's definitely something making that seismic signature that's kind of drawn out here, if you guys can see what I'm talking about. But really no mention of it there from the USGS. Mauna Loa up here. Go ahead and check this out, see what we got. Looks like this one was put out, again, about 5 days ago. They're doing weekly updates. So, and there's a few seismograph stations they need to fix up there. Some of those are not working at all. This one is. General seismic activity limited. Not a whole lot of activity around the summit area of Mauna Loa. All right, guys, space weather. Run over here real quick and see what we got. Current conditions look pretty minimal. Not a whole lot of the aurora potential. Maybe up around Canada area, just a slight chance. We are looking at unsettled conditions here. Over the next couple nights, we haven't really seen any major flares kicking off. We are watching this new sunspot, 3176, as it looks pretty, looks like it's larger, much larger and more stable. Doesn't look like the word I should use. Instability looks like is happening around the magnetic structure of all of these little segments of the sunspot, and that means that things could get crackling and popping really quickly in terms of solar flare activity. So we'll watch that one. That one's about the only one on this section of the sun that's facing the Earth that we need to watch. There is a new sunspot way over here on the southeastern limb. It looks somewhat complex as well as this one, but I think we need to pay attention to 3176 here in the future, and that could include right now. Never know. 3176 looks like it kind of harbors a beta class but this was put out. This was assigned on the 26th, but since then, I would say it's grown and definitely looks a little bit more complex today. So we'll definitely watch that. 99% chance of a C flare. M flare has been elevated to 55. X flare remains around 15%. But right now, the solar flare activity looks like we had a little C flare event here. Not quite into the M flare category. This is the solar GOES X-ray flux chart. Category sits over here as far as the different flare class. And just kind of watching it. Definitely within that C level. Watch out for another M flare here pretty soon, possibly from the newcomer on the sun. It does look pretty large, and it's definitely got a couple different sections there to work with. Alrighty, guys, have a good night. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you guys sometime tomorrow. 1.9 Northern and looks like Central California area, but on the San Andreas Fault, it looks like. Alrighty, take care, folks. We'll catch you guys a little bit later on. Have a good one. Peace out.